I like working with clients, especially around the optimization of their direct response campaigns. And today I'm going to share with you a little bit of tips and focus on how to optimize your campaigns to get the best results online or offline. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. Number one, while the internet is exciting and a lot of fun, it's not everything. There's a lot of people still buying stuff offline. The biggest thing we have to understand is that when you're setting up stuff with technology, things will break. So let's say you have a click funnel and it's using click funnels and you're making sales in click funnels and you're generating leads in click funnels. Is that data also in Google Analytics? Now you might be saying, well, ClickFunnels has some kind of stats and we can check our stats there. Yes, but how do we know those stats are correct? Because there's privacy browsers, there's, local network security. I was using a Google Optimizer and I couldn't get the thing to work on the computer here in the network here because all of my network stuff is secure and I don't even trigger people's Google tags or trigger people's Google Analytics because I didn't want to skew the websites that we're managing for clients. Um, this kind of thing people don't think about because if I'm going to test someone's Google Analytics, I use third-party tools outside, SEMrush, Ahrefs, something like that. The key here to understand is that there's a lot of stuff that can break on the internet. But you send a postcard to a mailing list and they go to an opt-in page or they go to a landing page and they make a purchase, there's very few pieces to break. So the number one optimization thing is minimum viable product. And that could mean a landing page with no other navigation other than the options that you want people to take. And then, of course, if you're using optimization tools, you're going to use the mapping in that particular page that's focusing just on one or two elements so that when you send the traffic to that page, you can know what works and what doesn't. More importantly, you want the context of your analytics, the second point here, to be very high context. So you want your inbound links to be using the Google Analytics UTM codes so that you know what piece of copy, what medium, maybe what campaign has contributed to the lead or the sale. Now, it's been my good fortune to meet many marketers over the years. I met Jim Straw, for example, did a lot of offline work. And I said, there's all these measures in marketing, including the things that I was marketing in database marketing. And he basically said to me, there are two key measures, and I've heard this in other places, two key measures that determine whether or not your campaigns are working. Number one measure is the cost of leads generated. Okay, so you got to get leads. How much did it cost you to get those leads? Can you get them in a cost-effective way? Are some mediums higher priced than others? He was actually placing classified ads and different kinds of ads in publications. And so he knew that one magazine was better than another magazine. And the second measure is the sales. Now, the sales that you get tell you that the customer's made a commitment to buy what it is that you offer. And that commitment that they've made is a firm commitment. They took money from their pocket and they passed it over to you. And so if you can measure those two things among all others, then you're going to get maximum results. Now, I've also met and learned from uh, the desktop here is having some problems here. I've also learned from numerous other marketers, including Jeff Paul, to have the keyframe that every web page has an opt-in or it has a sales offer. Now, when you simplify things down to this, it's easier to drill down into what customers want and what they don't want. It's easier to drill down into their interest and desires. But today with the internet, you can learn so much more about people. You can learn about all their demographics. You can learn about where they came from, what other websites they visit. But again, that is a distraction if you don't have a core plan. I tend to work with people helping them with their technical side of the marketing. Now, I know I write copy, I write technical papers, but I do have a skill set in the project management of a website. We work with some particular tools and products, and we can get down to the point where if I send an email to you, I can tell what websites of mine you visited after you have sent you that email, whether or not you've clicked something, whether or not you've opened the email or multiple times or a single time. And these are pretty common things when they work correctly, but we can do that across platforms. So one of the things you want to look at when choosing the platforms and tools. So for example, if you're going to get an affiliate marketing product, you're going to start doing affiliate marketing with a catalog. You want to make sure that it works with the catalog, which might be Shopify, it might be WooCommerce, it might be some other thing. And then it also works with your content management system, which could be Optimizely, could be WordPress, it could be, uh, movable type for all I know. The key is that when the integration is correct, you can go to one place, which is the Google or your Google or your Adobe analytics tool, whatever the key web analytics tool you're using, that you can go to that one place and get a picture of your customer. Now, you got that one picture. How do we know it's accurate? How do we know it's correct? Well, you can also go down to your Shopify analytics and it'll be similar there. They're not going to be exact, but they'll be similar. You can go to your local WordPress installation and look at Monster Insights, for example. Now, those aren't the only platforms I've worked with. I have worked with other platforms and even proprietary platforms. But if you're doing just a regular consulting website, you're doing a site to get more paid clients, then it's likely going to be a WordPress or some Drupal, something like that. And we want to look at those tools that work with each other. Now, there are tools that help interconnect all these other tools like Zapier and, of course, your marketing automation tools, whether it's ActiveCampaign, HubSpot, um, Aweber. And I know I'm throwing a lot of tools out here. If you're listening to this in the future and these tools don't exist, that's part of the technical side, is that these tools come and go as they please, and ultimately they break. And so when you have all these moving parts, how do we know our campaigns are working? And again, I go back to Jim Straw. I go back to Paul Hartunian. I go back to Jeff Paul. I go back to Dan Kennedy. I go back to Ted Nicholas and Bob Bly. These folks measured the leads and the sales. It's accountable advertising. In fact, I have a book that I think I republished it there for a little bit by Henry S. Bunting back in the 1800s. I think it was like 1918. He'd started in the 1800s. And the only two things that they measured was sales and leads. Now, of course, when you start understanding where those sales and leads are coming from and you start building characteristics about the customer, you can ultimately build a great profile of a customer. You can build your customer avatar and you will get better results. But guess what else is an optimization method? You can opt in people. You can make offers to them, even low ticket offers to get them on your list. Because good old Jim Straw says 100 buyers on your list is worth 10,000 leads, or worth more than 10,000 leads. But the third thing you can do is what's called a prospect survey. The prospect survey reaches out to the prospects and asks those questions that you would just love to ask and starts developing a profile of the prospective customer based on their own words. You can use an ask campaign. You could use a general prospect survey. You could even use a research method. I did this one campaign. It was based on actual psychology research methods. They had a list of questions and they could rate it 1 to 5. And then based on their rating, it segmented them into 3 different groups. And then each of those groups had their own offers. Sounds pretty complex, but you get enough names through that list, you can really produce for you some great audience segments. If you cookie it the right way with the Facebook Pixel or Google AdSense, you can actually even then find similar audiences to target and bring into that funnel. Funnels are very important. Russell Brunson talks about funnels. Funnels are extremely important because a funnel gives the prospect a clear path to walk down. That clear path takes them from one offer to the next. You can chain offers together in order to get to find out what's going on. But let's talk about, when you're doing that, some of the effective ways to optimize. So if you're not aware of a decision tree, that's something you really want to look at. And a decision tree would go, it'd start A, B, A, B, and I'm drawing it on paper here because I don't have a whiteboard or anything. But we basically have a path. And so the person comes down the path and they can go option A or option B. Option B in this case could be they bounced. They stopped. Option A could be that they purchased the product. Then after they purchase the product, they could bounce again, or they can take the next, which might be the upsell. Those series, if you can map that out at the beginning of a campaign and really build the framework for your campaign, you can more effectively drive traffic down this funnel in a way that gives you a good idea of what's happening. When I used to have Infusionsoft, and many of my clients that have had Infusionsoft, by the way, I never certify any of these products because I'm focusing on what a direct marketer needs, not the latest gimmick about how the tool works or not. If the tool doesn't work well, it's going to be hard to maintain. So I focus on the page has an offer. That offer is either to opt in or to buy something. After they buy something or opt in, you offer them something else. Now, if they've already opted in or they've already bought something, you might as well offer them something else to buy, which is an upsell. And so no matter how the tool's set up, it's just you're linking these things together. What I find works very well is the landing page, the confirmation page, and the thank you page. They're all tied to an email. So if somebody land on the landing page, they opt in, they get a confirmation page, but there's an email for them to verify. You want a double opt-in. So they double opt in. And then it sends them back to the thank you page. This page right here will have a pixel on it. The first page, I don't really care because they haven't committed to me. So I'm not going to put a pixel on it. The confirmation page, I'll put a pixel on it so that I can follow up with those people who were pixeled, who did not confirm their email address, because I got an email opt-in that I couldn't use because they never did the final confirmation. And so I will then follow them around the internet, asking them to come back and opt in again. And that's a campaign series. Now, when you get 5 or 10 of these things set up, it's a pain in the butt to manage. And that's where my team comes in. That's where what my specialty is in my area. I have a background in risk management and business development, and both of those require efficient business processes with controls to know whether or not things are working or not. It is a control that prevents or detects an error to make sure you have double opt-in. Because today, if you're mailing to the EU, if you're mailing to a lot of countries, there are privacy rules and there are email permission rules. And so you want to make sure that you can evidence that you've got an actual double opt-in. Another thing that we like to be able to do that is very powerful when you're optimizing your campaigns is to make sure that we're able to collect massive amounts of demographics. Now, we don't collect these things and store them on our system, but it's like the when you go to the stats on the Facebook page, it tells you what groups that they like. There's a couple tools out there where you can put in a web address and it tells you the audience that goes to that website also goes to these other websites. These are valuable ways to find new channels, because what I want to do for a client is set up 2 or 3 key campaigns that test against their known working campaigns and they get to a certain baseline. And then all we've got to do is find new lists, new audiences, new publications. And now we're feeding a known system new people to convert. Many products and services on the internet will have a lifetime of maybe 1 or 2 years at the most. I want to find in a client's base what products and services have a longer lifespan or have the higher potential to have a repeat high ticket opportunity. Now, offline, this is so much easier. I had an equipment rental company, and they actually marketed individuals who had previously visited a place to buy equipment. They actually marketed those individuals and offered them an opportunity to own the equipment. The pitch is they have all the benefits of owning the equipment without the maintenance costs, without the storage, and the other opportunities, the other drawbacks of owning the equipment itself. I've worked with an organization that had a catalog company, and they drove primarily everybody to the catalog online, and they had a catalog. They also had a print catalog. It was Lilly and Vernon, and they had a print catalog. And one time they couldn't get their print catalog out. So what I suggested to them, and they ended up sending out emails. They didn't do the postcard idea, but I suggested they send out a postcard. The postcard would essentially been one page out of the catalog with a call to action on it. And they didn't like that because they're in their mind our catalog company. But at least they tried the email and they sent people to the website from the email and made a good amount of money. And they needed the money. This was before their last buyout, before they kind of got rolled up. Another organization I worked with, we were speeding up their ad performance so that we can get better monetization with the advertising. And we found, this is a while back when it was a little harder to do, we found that we could segment their list. So that's the last thing I want to leave you with as far as optimization, is that while you're building a list, you want to be segmenting the list so that you're sending legitimate, high value, high matching offers to your particular list, so that every time they get your email, they want to open it up, they want to take action. Now, you might be saying, well, Justin, I should be measuring my open rates. Well, what matters more, the open rate or the click-through rate? That's a trick question, because what matters more is that people stay on your list. So you don't care about the unsubscribes. You want them to stay on their list as active individuals. So you want a meta uh, type of measure, which is both the open rate and the click-through, because you're going to send them somewhere. And then on the other end of that, it rolls into your measures on sales. Whew, it's a lot to cover at times, folks. And anytime you want to sit down and just have a discussion about what we can do to optimize and improve your web performance, especially when it comes to the integration. So for example, if someone purchases in Shopify, we want to make sure it shows up in Google Analytics. If somebody purchases offline, we want to make sure it shows up in Google Analytics. And that can be done from your accounting system back. And then if somebody calls on the phone, we even want to know who called on the phone and whether or not we can follow them around the internet with retargeting campaigns. There's really a lot to cover. However, it's all into the direct response optimization, and it doesn't matter whether you're mailing a postcard, you're mailing a letter, or you're sending emails. You want to be able to efficiently and effectively reach out to these people with offers that sell, that take action. And then ultimately you can build from your house list. I'm going to leave you with one last benefit of this that I've heard a couple times at the marketing events, is that, and I've seen this in real life, is that when you have that house list, you'll be able to follow up with that prospect. You'll be able to connect with them on a consistent and regular basis, and you'll be able to do so without your competitors seeing what's going on. That is another factor that creates longevity in your marketing, as well as helps you optimize, because now you can do campaigns and cells, and you can say, you're going to test A/B split 5,000 versus 5,000, and then the winner gets promoted to say 10,000, and then you can ratchet up like that and really know what works and what doesn't. Really drive your campaign. All the fancy tools have no value if you aren't generating leads and making sales. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. If you have any questions about what I've covered here today, and I can speak slowly and clearly on the telephone with you, visit me at www.adbriefings.co.uk and ask your questions on the contact page, or join our newsletter on the newsletter page. And we'll be happy to answer your questions in future podcasts or on a group coaching call, which are generally open to podcast subscribers and my newsletter subscribers. I want to thank you for listening and being a part of what we do here. We're here to help you use database and direct response methodologies in order to increase the quality of your analysis, to improve your implementation, and boost your revenue using words that sell.